This is Corey Willis with PPI, and you're listening to the Diesel Podcast.
I'm Adam Blattenberg from Diesel World.
This is Dan, owner of Dan's Diesel Performance.
I'm Braden Fleece, and you're listening to the Diesel Podcast.
What is going on, Diesel Nation? We're excited to have you guys with us today on the Diesel Podcast. We have not forgotten about our Powerstroke fans out there, and today we've got Cass from Choate Engineering, and he has been working on a ton of new upgrades and engine parts and just different things over the last few months. We're really excited to chat with him today. One of the major ones is going to be about 6.4 engines and a common failure that they have, and this fix that him and the engineering team over there have been working on and testing. We're really excited to be able to tell you guys about that today. If there's any questions that you guys have specifically towards your 7.3, 6-liter, 6.4, 6.7 Powerstroke, we encourage you guys to reach out directly to Choate Engineering. You can follow them on Facebook, Instagram, jump on their website and just give them a call. And there's tons of questions. There's so many different applications and goals that people have for their engines that it's tough to just be able to answer them, say on one podcast. So if you need that one-on-one help, have some specific questions and goals that you're trying to reach, just give them a call, reach out to them. They're more than happy to help you. All right, let's get to the podcast with Cass and learning what they've been working on at Choate Engineering the last couple months. Cass, welcome back to the Diesel Podcast. I'm excited to have you on another episode where we get to catch up with what you guys have been doing at Choate Engineering.
Well, we're delighted to be here as always. It's always an honor and a privilege to get to come on and talk about what we love doing.
I follow you guys on Facebook and Instagram, and I see a ton of cool things that you guys have been working on through the summer, the fall, and even some things at PRI. But I wanted to ask you, what are some major things or updates or just what you guys have been working on there at the shop?
Sure. This year has been a roller coaster ride for us, for sure. As far as the company, it's grown a lot. There's a lot of things that we've been working on, and the end of the year has been just kind of culmination. It's funneled down, and it's just been. You hear about the SEMA crunch, but actually for us, it's generally like the PRI crunch because we're more active during the PRI show. As most of your performance guys, that's their show, that's their thing. So, excuse me, we have been very, very busy the last couple months. We're very involved with Rottler Manufacturing Company, which is, if you've ever had doesn't matter if you've ever had your 350 Chevrolet or your, whatever engine, it doesn't matter if it's a Waukesha. You've probably had a Rottler machine or some type. One of their machines actually do the machine work. Roush Yates uses their some of their milling centers. But anyways, they had invited us when we were in Washington to come for PRI show, and they wanted us to run some parts on their machine and show some of the stuff. So we got kind of a late invite at the end of the year, but it was an awesome opportunity, so we wanted to make sure that we took advantage of that. So that being said, we double timed and tried to get as much done at the last of the year so that we could come out with something to show on the machines and stuff at PRI. So in conjunction with everything else we've already been doing, it was an awesome opportunity. But I'm glad that PRI. I'm glad it's done and it's in the books for 2019. I'm excited about 2020. We've made some awesome contacts. We've got some exciting things working with several companies out there, UEM Pistons and Comp Cams and Rottler for next year. So one of the things that we designed was a billet valve cover, which it's not, everybody does billet valve covers. It's not that big a deal. But what we did was we're trying to kind of take the approach to our parts a little differently than most, whereas somebody would make maybe a cover like that and go, okay, well, that looks cool. I don't want my parts just to look cool. I do want them to look, neat, flashy, and showy and everything, and that's great, but I also want functionality. I'm very much geared towards that way personally. Don't get me wrong, I like for things to look nice, but at some point, you can only justify so many thousands of dollars for something if it doesn't actually do anything but this looks pretty. But, there's people that, make a living off of that kind of stuff. Like I said before, they'd sell you billet seat covers if they thought they could get away with it. But anyways, one thing that makes the part that we were working on there so useful is that it's actually the 6.4. It's what we consider one of the major fixes for the 6.4. We're just about ready to get all that wrapped up, and it uses an integrated oiling system that will actually be feeding oil to the rocker assembly. So that is going to be a huge help to the poor guys that have been suffering for lack of lubrication at the top end of the rocker assemblies, which has caused catastrophic failure of engines, and people don't even really realize it.
That was one of the things we covered on a previous podcast we did, was 6.4 common problems and fixes, and that was something that was there. But for, say, somebody who is a new 6.4 owner or hasn't had the issue yet, what is it? And then how can that product really change how they can avoid, say, issues with the rocker assembly or an engine build or something like that?
Well, the first 6.4 that I ever bought, and I guess it stuck in my mind so vividly, the problem with it, because it went from bad to worse, and it was one of those things that could have been fixed easily if I'd have caught it in time. But it was the first 6.4 that I ever purchased, and I guess because of that experience, it's sticking in my mind that I just thought, you know what, I'm going to fix this thing. I'm going to fix it and be done with it. To know, I think we may have covered this, and I just want to make sure that I kind of lay the groundwork so people understand where we're coming from on it. Try to be as quick as I can on it. But you kind of have to go back to the predecessor of the 6-liter. We talked about the Huey injection system before, how it's, a hydraulically actuated, electronically controlled unit injector that every time just like a 7.3, every time it fires the injector, it's got a relief that it spits oil on top of the rocker. You don't normally see a lot of failures out of the 6.0 rockers. Typically, if you do see a failure out of the 6.0 rocker, you have got another, a lot of times there's another underlying cause. And a lot of times it's guys that have already had, machine work done, and their valve recession may not have been right, and it smacked the piston and then it pushed up on it and broke the stamped rocker. But the 6.4, in the haste that they were in, they decided to switch to the high-pressure common rail system. They thought, well, there's enough oil up there anyways, and they just really never gave a whole lot of thought to that. I don't know if it was intentional. I don't know if it was done in ignorance, but what happened, and it, again, it's a culmination of things, but there's always been a lack of oil in the upper valve train area. So what the perfect storm, it always is, kind of like you go back on the 6-liter and the perfect storm of the EGR cooler and the head gasket failure, the perfect storm of the 6.4 for the typical camshaft failure or lifter failure is that because of the lack of lubrication, not only that, because of the oil dilution through fuel getting into the oil, and then on top of the lack of oil that's in the top of the head, starving out, the rocker that has a little, basically a pivot ball that it rides on the valve bridge. The valve bridge tends to wear excessively. The pivot ball will wear to the point of the clamps, basically a tension spring keeper that holds it in, generally will pop out. Then you've got the stamped rocker arm on top of the valve bridge itself, and they're riding metal to metal. There's really no lubrication there, and it continues to wear and continues to wear. What that does is it allows for more valve lash, so that when the lifter is actually coming up off of the camshaft, it's slapping the top of the valve bridge, and it creates now valve lash. And so you've got this shock wave that's being sent back and forth. And the middleman, the poor guy in the middle, the monkey in the middle, you might say, is the lifter, and he's just getting the nuts beat out of him because the cam's hitting him, and then the springs are hitting him. And it's kind of going back and forth because, like I say, you have so much valve lash that was never intended. It's the hydraulic adjuster, or the lifter, the hydraulic lifter, is supposed to have taken up that, but it can't anymore because it's past that point. So that creates a whole other issue. When that fails, then the lifter fails, and the lifter fails, it sends shrapnel through, and it wipes out the cam lobe, and the engine's done. So it's the perfect storm. It doesn't matter that all this could have been fixed if it had caught it soon enough, and the guy had to put, maybe new rocker arms or something like that on the engine. Generally, guys will call in, or they'll make a Facebook post or an Instagram post or whatever, and ask questions about, is this ticking normal on my engine? And of course, it's not. Sometimes it has to do with injector tick. Sometimes it has to do with the tuning, and you're hearing noises. Sometimes it has to do with the guy that's just paranoid and he's hearing noises. But a lot of times it can be that the rocker arm has got a tick to it because of that valve lash. So what we've done to develop that is, or to remedy that by developing a solution, is to add a drip edge bowling system, much like the 6.7 has, that's integrated into the valve cover itself, and it's fed through oil under pressure all the time, so that the rockers don't fail anymore because they're constantly lubricated, and it resolves the issue. It's so, we're not, we're ripping a page kind of out of the 6.7 playbook and just going back for the guys that own these trucks. Ford's not going to do that. They're not going to spend that much money and time in developing something for an engine that's not their concern anymore anyways. They're more interested in developing the current product that they have. Where the aftermarket comes in, like us, is we go, hey guys, we know y'all have got a big problem over here, and we want to help. We want to be able to resolve this and get you something out there that will work for you. So it doesn't matter. Sometimes it may not be that you're reinventing the wheel, but you may be changing the purpose for the wheel and changing the application, and that makes everything work really well. So the 6.7 drip edge oiling system, we used a different routing system. Obviously, we couldn't do what they did with where they got their oil supply, so we were able to do some other things so that the oil could be fed, like I said, under constant pressure, and it works really well for that.
So that's what's so cool about the aftermarket is we think about it, it's 2008, 9, 10 for the 6.4, but it's like Ford sells the most trucks. There's millions of those on the road. And it could be somebody who's owned it since new, or somebody who just picked it up, and you spend any amount of time on social media or just a Google search, and you see these, it's like 6.4 engine build, or rocker failures and things like that. So as far as having something that you can do preventatively to save that would be almost a no-brainer to do it. Yeah,
absolutely. It's an expensive truck, and the thing about it is you don't, for I guess a lack of a better explanation. It's almost like, the horse has got a shoe loose and you shoot him. You don't. There's things we can do to fix this. You don't have to put him down,
Yeah.
But there's an easy solution. Now, if it continues to go, it's going to wind up causing major issues to the point of engine failure. But and it looks cool. Don't get me wrong; they look great. We like them. But it's billet. Everybody loves billet. It's kind of like Jeff Foxworthy says. If it's the Basslers, fishing gear, beer cans, if it's shiny, we like it. But it's it's billet. But anyways, it is a functional purpose. And on top of that, I won't get into that, but there's another product that's going to go on top of this product that I guess I'll leave it as a teaser later. But it will cut down. This will keep people guessing because I'm not going to tell. But it will cut down. Excuse me. It will cut down on about 30% of Facebook posts of these blow videos. You're welcome in advance, people. Yeah, you can send cards and letters. We're going to fix it for you. We're tired of them too, so there you go. But anyway.
I had seen, I think it was maybe late in the summer, early fall, and I'm kind of connecting this to PRI, which was recently, but I saw that you guys had some really amazing photos of Matthew Fetty's race engine in his truck, and then I think it was the truck or engine. I saw posts about it at PRI, and we had touched on it, I think late last year, earlier this year with his race truck. But I wanted to ask you about that setup and the racing side on the 6-liter. What kind of new things or what you guys are shooting for in 2020?
We have gone so far beyond the realm of normal with that engine that last year we spent so much time and work with trying to make doing something completely radically different, and we were using some of the top fuel, and we still are, some of the top fuel, some of the pistons, some of the coatings, some of the different processes to put together this engine. And we've tried certain things didn't work for us, certain things did work for us. And there's really not anything in that engine that is actually, that resembles anything that's actually been done in the Powerstroke platform ever. So this last year was a learning curve for us a lot on what to do, what not to do. And so we wound up revamping some stuff, and we made some custom things, sleeves particularly, that would work with some of the stuff that Matt was wanting to do with some of the C-ring setups, and some things that we found that just will not work with a C-ring setup. And we've found some things that just wouldn't work with the piston setup that we were trying to do. So all that, we went through, and that's part of R&D. That's, you really can't bring, we were talking to the piston manufacturer and asking them, hey, what should we do? And they've been awesome to work with, and they're a fantastic company. It's not, there's no information out there because nobody's done it. And when that's the case, you are the guinea pig. And, you're breaking new ground, Copernicus. So, I mean, really, it's you out there, and you're the one trying to figure this stuff out, and they're trying to lend as much support as they can. But at some point, it's just you're going to have to roll up your sleeves and go to work and just test and try. So we did that this year, and I think we got everything that we were really struggling with to get right. This year, we've got the other engine that we've got built. We've got actually two engines that he's going to be outfitted with for next year, and one of them he has in his possession right now, and it uses an extra. It's a massive sleeve that this thing uses. It looks like it came out of a DD530. It's enormous, but anyways, it's not just that. We're using basically a line-to-line coating with some really weird clearances and tolerances that were used, some 2618 billet pistons and things like that, some compression ratios that were very, very low for that particular setup. But he is spraying massive amounts of nitrous to this thing, and it was kind of funny. I think that David Freiberger, when he was there last year, he said, we almost gave y'all the award for the nitrous award because of the sheer amounts of nitrous that you're actually running through this engine. It's insane. So there's a ton of that that's being used. So anyway, so we've done some things with that. We're also working with Comp on some of the stuff with the camshafts, which is really cool because heretofore, Comp wasn't really in the diesel world, but we're working really close with them to help develop some of the stuff. Working with them on, excited about working with them on their Spintron and doing some testing there. And with Billy Godbold, who is the guy's literally a genius. I mean, he has a the mad scientist degree. So literally, but it's really exciting to see what we've the doors Lord just opened for us to do different things with companies that are major players in the gasoline world, but not necessarily something that they are known for in the diesel world or ever really done that are marketed in the diesel world. So they're not far from us. They're probably about an hour from us. So it works out really well. They're kind of in our back door, so to speak. So we've been working with them. And then, of course, UEM, who has been fantastic. Chris has been awesome to work with over there. Just super people. You couldn't ask for a better group of guys over there. And we're really, really appreciative and thankful for them. And so we've worked with them on some of their piston stuff coming out for the diesel market as well. So it's good for the industry. Everything that we're doing is, Matt's Motors, great. We're excited about doing some really cool stuff and pushing that Powerstroke platform. But, excuse me, while we're pushing the Powerstroke platform for him and developing new products, and we're pushing that, we're also bringing in, these companies that, like I said, are not in the same realm, and we're bringing them with us, or they're going with us. We're hooking onto their kind of chariot, so to speak, and just excited to be with them. But it's also helping everybody else in the industry, because now it's going to provide guys that are wanting quality parts. It's going to give them an outlet for that too. So, it's good for us. It's good for the companies we're working with, because it's a new market for them, but it's also great for the end user.
It's a really exciting component of, I think, where diesel is at right now versus, in the past there might only be one or two choices, and it wasn't on the radar of the bigger companies that had specialized in gas performance or racing for so long. Whereas now they have the infrastructure, the machines, the engineers, research and development, the logistics that they've been doing for 30, 40 years or longer, and are able to take advantage of that in a way to produce these parts for diesel engines, whether it's 6 liter, 6.4, 6.7, or whatever it might be, and use those components in a race vehicle or something like a daily driver, or something that's being worked every day. And I think that's really exciting to be able to hear that and then see what you guys are doing to make that happen.
Yeah. There's a lot of products out there right now that we're currently testing. So mid-year should be a great time for the guys that are looking for, especially, like I said, in context of what we're talking about, especially for the Powerstroke guys, because hopefully by that time we will have finished testing, and we'll start being able to release some of the things that we've been working on for so long. So I'm really, really, really stoked to see that come to fruition. You don't realize how long it takes to take something from a thought to a design to a drawing, and then to a toolpath, and then to the actual part that you have, and then test it, and then revamp it, and then go back and forth and back and forth. It's not like you're developing a bolt or a screw or something like that. I mean, these are products that, if you want it to be right, there's a lot. It doesn't happen by accident to have a quality part where it fits just right and where it works just right. There's a lot involved in that. I would love to be able to pop out a product, left and right, and say, hey, it's ready to go. But before we do, and we put our name on it, we want to make sure that we've done everything we can to test it and make sure that it's going to do everything we said it's going to do, and it's going to hold up. And the prospects are very bright on the stuff that we've been working on. And so 2020 should be, with the Lord's help, 2020 should be a really, really good year. We're excited to, we're in a better position now than we've ever been. We have not just the equipment and the capabilities now, and the education of some of the things that of how to get to the end goal. I mean, you start out with a product and you're thinking, this is what I want to do, but then, a lot of the problems that we run into in the industry is that you come up with an idea and you go, okay, all right, I want this. I think what would really work would be, that if we made this product. So you go and you try to pitch it to somebody, and they go, okay, that's great. We'll do 5,000 of them. Well, I don't know if 5,000 of them are going to sell. I mean, I don't know if 500 of them are going to sell. Right now, I need to get to market, to be able to see. Let me get some prototypes up, and then that starts to slow the process down, because you can't commit to such a large volume on something like that. The neat thing that we've been able to do is our shop is extremely unique. It's not just that again, I've said this a million times before, but it's not that our shop's just a repair facility, because Diesel Doctor and Choate Engineering Performance are two separate companies. They're sister companies. It's not that Choate Engineering just does the engine side of things now. And we've been building engines, and we fix the problems with them, but we also are able to do in-house our own machining and our own parts manufacturing, not just the engine building side, but now we're able to take all that stuff that we're thinking about doing, and we're actually starting to be able to make our own parts and do all that, so that we don't have to go out and we don't have to say, hey, can you do 50 of these parts for me? Because most people aren't going to even look at you for 50 parts. They don't even want to mess with you because it's a lot of time invested in designing and learning all that stuff. People don't get it. They think, well, I'll buy a CNC machine and I'll go to work. Yeah, good luck with that. It doesn't exactly work that way. The green button, I just walk up there and put material in and hit the green button. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of forethought that goes in. There's a lot of time spent in front of a computer long before you ever hit the green button. So it's really cool that we're able to do that now. So we have huge capabilities that we hadn't had before.
That's a huge, huge point, and it's something I've heard before on podcasts, talking with business owners that are making their own parts, and they talk about this process they go through where they're outsourcing components of what they're building, and sometimes they can be great for years, and then you get a bad batch. And then you put it out there, and then it's like the public's like, well, this doesn't work, this failed, it did all these things. And I think to be able to bring that all within your control and the processes that you have and the quality checks is so important. I think, like for what you guys are doing, and we talked about this recently as well, not to change the subject, but we were just chatting, and you're like, we're so busy, and you had all these new hires and these new things that you guys are doing and the expansion. And it's been really cool to be able to chat with you through the process over the last, 18 months, almost 2 years, to see how you've been able to do this and grow it in the Powerstroke platform with the logistics, the people that make it happen, being able to bring the parts manufacturing in-house to control more of it. So when you put something in a box, ship it out, or on a crate, every part that went into it, who made it, when they made it, all those things. So when the customer gets the product, there isn't that guesswork of, I outsourced this. Was it a good day or bad day?
Right. Well, and I'm not trying to bust anybody's chops on that. Really, this is not the intention of it, but you just jogged my memory, so I'm going to run with it. What people do not get in this industry, the general public doesn't get, and this is a taboo. This is kind of one of those things. I don't know if you ever watched that show. When I was a kid, I liked it because it was a guy that would show the magic trick and how it was done. But you have to wear the mask.
Yeah.
Because he was afraid if anybody ever knew, they're going to kill him. It's kind of that way in the industry, though. They're going to go mad at you. But there's so much white boxing. They call it, quote unquote, white boxing that goes on, and it's just repulsive to me. I absolutely hate it. It's where, if people that don't know, it's where you basically go out to another company and you tell them, make this part. I know you're making this part for so-and-so. You make this part for me, and you put my name on it instead of their name on it. So everybody gets the same part. They just don't realize it, and they wind up getting, a different name or a different box. And that's totally crooked in my book. That's not right, because I buy because I trusted that brand. I remember when I was growing up as a kid in the appliance business, when that started happening, we started seeing that. Used to, years and years and years ago, and this is way back when, you would buy a Kenmore washing machine, or you would buy, a GE washing machine, and you would go, okay, that's who made that, because that was their name on it. Now you have to look at the first 3 digits of the model number, because if you don't, it doesn't matter that it says Kenmore on the front of it. It doesn't matter that it says Samsung on the front. Actually, Samsung made that for Kenmore. And if it doesn't say 106 on the front, then that's not actually made by, which Kenmore actually never made anything. Whirlpool made it, and it's just, again, I grew up in that business, and it's funny how you start seeing all this stuff transfer over, and it's just a marketing deal, and I get it. It's a way to make money. But we don't do that. If we're going to wind up, outsourcing to a company, I'm going to straight up tell you, this is the company that actually made that for us. This is the piston company that we use, whether it's MALA or UEM or the camshaft company that we're making. I don't want to put my name on something that we didn't actually make. And if we did, I want to be upfront and honest with you and tell you that. I've seen in the past where competitors have literally put their name on the bottom of a piston that the manufacturer did the fly cutting for them, and then they're calling it their piston, and they're the ones that manufactured it. And I go up to SEMA, and I pick up this piston, I'm looking at it, and I go, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. That's, they're using this, and they're putting their name on it, and they're calling it theirs, and they're calling it that all this is done in-house, and it's not. It's, if you're going to do it in-house, do it in-house. Otherwise, just be honest about it, So, and again, it does help with quality control. being able to do stuff in-house. At some point, you're going to get to a volume. It's like anything else. When people want, Henry Ford didn't assemble every, Model T that went out of the factory. At some point in time, you have to start getting help, and that's fine. You get to that understanding, you're going to grow to that size. There's other, and that's when you start looking at different avenues. But it's white boxing, and there's other key words for it that they like to call it. It's just, to me, it's completely unacceptable, and it leads to a kind of a degradation. It leads to it doesn't help. It doesn't help the market because it floods it with the same product, different pricing, and just a bunch of it's just a bunch of truths. What it really deals with, and that's one of the reasons why we decided to go the way we went.
I think especially with engines, whether they're racing or for a daily driver, it's an expensive purchase, and there's so much that's attached to it, whether it's working and making money or driving across the country for a race, or it's a special project that you're helping somebody with. It's so much more specialized than something we can buy off Amazon or something like that, where as long as it works, it works. It doesn't really matter who made it. It's not the same with diesel engines or racing, just engines in general.
Yeah, that's absolutely. It is true. It's you're not buying a ballpoint pen. I mean, you're dependent on this thing every day to make it to work, and you're spending money because you're buying that because you have trust in it. You've done your homework. You found that's the company you want to deal with because they have a good reputation. And the problem, man, what really gets you, and you can't come out and say it because if you did, they'd stone you. But what you want to do is people come out there and go like, "Oh man, I wouldn't buy this product. This product from Joe Blow. This is junk. The only one I'm going to buy it from is so and so." And I'm thinking to myself, what's funny about this? And sitting back, we know it on this side of the industry, and you know it too, Patrick. But we all know it on this side of the industry because we're involved in this thing very much so. We know everybody behind the scenes, and we're friends with the guys. But what blows me away is these guys over here that are talking about it on Facebook, and you're going, what that goober doesn't know is that guy made it for that guy, and it's ridiculous. But again, like I said, it's taboo. But we chose to go a different route, and that was one of the reasons why we chose to go that route. Something that we're probably looking at eventually getting into, and we've talked about it before. We've got so much on our plate right now, but eventually I tend to get into the more metrology side, where people are sending me parts, and then I can reverse engineer the parts and then send them the CAD files. And if they want to make their own, stuff, well, that's fine. I can do all the design work, I do all the CAM work, and send it back to them and say, okay, just put this in your USB drive and, set your work offset and hit the green button and do that. That's another side of it that we've considered doing before. But there's a lot of avenues for us to go down because I remember when I started this business, and this is a tip to other companies, and I see guys out there all the time. They go, "I'm just going to buy my own CNC machine." This is a big tip for you because I found myself in this one time. I had a guy that I'd hired because I didn't know anything about the CNC side. I knew the manual side of it, but I didn't really know the CNC. We had a machine there, one particular machine that I always depended on this other guy to run. And one day, and he knew that I didn't know how to do it, and he kind of lorded that over me a little bit. And, it's never been a good situation to be the servant as being the boss. You know what I mean? You don't want to be to the point, where this guy, he knows you, he's got you, by the neck, and you really don't really have a choice. You kind of got to go along with whatever. If he has a bad day at work, well, you can't push him too hard because he walks out. Nobody knows how to grind cranks. You're done for that day. You can't do that. But anyway, he wound up leaving, and we split ways on it. And anyways, here I am left with a machine and it was an older CNC, and I didn't know how to program that machine. And I remember looking at it, I'm like, that's great. Here I own something I don't even know how to run. And to be honest with you, I don't even know anybody to call in a 150-mile radius that can tell me how to run this machine. And I'm stuck. So I learned from that point, that day, that I will never have any particular, there's not one particular thing in that shop anywhere that if that guy that's working that machine walked out tomorrow, that I can't program it, I can't pick it up, or I didn't already, write the program and he's run the program for me. I want to be able to know. I want to be the central, intelligence system for everything that goes out of that shop. And I know that people go, well, that's micromanaging. It is, and I know it's not right. Basically, it can hold a company back at a certain extent. But as long as I know, I don't mind. I want other people to know and them to grow. I just want to make sure that I have the foundation of everything that's going on. Just because I don't like being in that predicament. I don't like being in the predicament where the guy can just walk out and leave me high and dry. I've got a family to feed, and I've got people that I've promised, this work will be done at so-and-so time. So if it, wound up coming down to it, I still have the ability and the knowledge to get everything done. So
that's a fantastic point, because we do see that a lot. And it's like, I'm going to buy this machine, or it could be any number of things, not even related to engines, but just in the automotive world, to be able to offer these new products or do these new things. And it's an investment, but it's also, like you mentioned, an investment of your time to learn it, so that maybe you need to train 2 or 3 people how to run it. Maybe somebody moves to a different position. Maybe they want to get into a different side of the company that you have. And if that machine's not running, well, kind of the whole operation can stop or slow down.
Yeah, it is. It's and it's a lot easier to teach somebody how to run something than it is to program something. I mean, there's a machine, they call them machine attendants for a reason, and no disrespect, but I mean, there's a lot more to, you can get as deep as you want to on some of those things, but I mean, like I said, I see a lot of that in the industry, and guys talking, well, I'll just get into this. I know that I didn't realize how deep you really can go with this thing. This is a whole nother avenue. I mean, it opens up a lot of doors, but boy, you better be ready to hang on, because the learning curves on those things I mean, it's straight up. There's a lot to know, especially the more involved you get in the programming side of things. But I mean, I digress on that. The whole point of it is this: we want to be self-sufficient, self-sustained, I should say, kind of sovereign in the way that we operate. I don't want to be dependent on another company so much to the point where if they decide that that they're not going to sell me this part or that part because they want to make that dollar now, that I'm stuck between the customer and between this guy that's kind of lording that over me. We have all those capabilities now in-house. So it's like I said, 2020 should be, Lord willing, exciting time for us. I'm looking forward to it and seeing what the prospects, basically whatever everything comes to fruition. I mean, we've got a lot of irons in the fire right now for sure.
One thing, whenever we record an episode, I always love to watch the comments, especially on YouTube. I know a lot of our Powerstroke fans, they gravitate towards your episodes because they're really detailed and they provide a lot of information. And we've covered the 6.0. We talked or did like almost a second episode a bit about the 6.4 and some things you guys are working on. But there's this other large part of Powerstroke fans we have that have a 2011 to current 6.7, and they're like, well, what about us? And I know there's some things you're working on, and it may not be quite ready to talk about all of it. But for the 6.7 owners that are listening, and they want to know what you guys are doing or seeing, with those engines, what do you think is going to be coming up here, in the next 6 months or few months that'll have some solutions or upgrades for those guys?
Upgrades as far as the long block's concerned, I can lay that out for you pretty easy right now. I don't know how much I want to spoiler alert for any other further episodes that we might do on the 6.7s, but people don't realize how many issues, especially in the earlier models of the 6.7, there really are. And there's guys that are going to say, oh, I've ran this oil, and what you're saying isn't true, and all this other stuff that you're going to get. But the 6.7s, we have done a lot of R&D with the 6.7 to make sure that we're addressing all the problems that come from the factory, the inherent problems with the engine. But one of the things that we see, and some of the, I'm trying not to give you too much information right now, but give you enough that the people can appreciate what we're doing with them. The 6.7 biggest failures that we see, okay? So I'll go out of this direction. Okay, the 6.7's the biggest failure, hands down, no questions asked, is spun bearings. Guaranteed, always. It seems like every core that we get comes in, it's always got some spun bearing in it, rod bearing, main bearing, all the time. So this is not, again, I'm wanting to help the Powerstroke community. It's not always about making a dollar. It's not about making a dollar. It's about winning a guy's trust so that when I had a guy, perfect example, okay? I had a guy come in this week. I did not even remember this. This is a local customer. But the guy goes, hey, he said, I brought my truck in here, and Ford said it needed a camshaft. Straight up what they told him. But it wound up being, it may have been a lift fag. I don't know. I didn't diag that truck. Somebody else did. But anyways, he said, I need a new engine. But I brought my truck back to you because several years ago, I had a flat tire. And you came out there and you didn't charge me anything, and you changed my tire for me. I just thought, that's crazy. This guy remembered me. And to be honest with you, I don't even remember it because it was that long ago. I've slept since then. I don't remember anything on that kind of stuff. My mind's running 1,000 miles an hour. But he remembered me, and I had his trust back in the day when, he needed my help, and I didn't charge him anything. I was more than happy to do it. It's more about that lifelong customer. I want that guy. I love having the guy that's his dad. We did work for his truck. We built a transmission or an engine or whatever, and he tells his son, hey, that's the guy you want to get your stuff done. That's the shop you want to do your stuff. And that's the trust. I would rather be believed than I would have a single dime. It means more to me because that's something that's I place, like I said before in other episodes, I place that above anything else. But anyway, as far as getting back to this information that I'm fixing to give, it doesn't necessarily make me any money. It'll help the customer for the 6.7. One of the big issues that we have is seeing these bearings spin, and reasons for the bearing spin is that most folks don't realize on the 6.7 the clearances on the 6.7 are much tighter than that of a conventional 6.4, 6.0, 7.3, 5.9, 6.7, Cummins, doesn't matter, any other engine out there. But for some reason, the 6.7 engineers decided on the Powerstroke platform to tighten the clearances to 7/10. So 7/10 of an inch, which, to give you kind of perspective of that, that's roughly the human hair's 3/1000. So you can figure about 1/4 of the human hair is how tight the rod bearing can be in some of these engines. So that's on both sides. That is what we would call, that's diameter. So you would split that. So if it's actually 7/10, that is 3.5 on either side of the rod. That's insanely tight. The reason why we're having so many of these issues is because guys go, well, my granddad ran a 15W40 oil, and my, uncle runs a 15W40 oil, and everybody does. So they just slap 15W40 oil in the truck, especially trucks that are up north, and they will run them with a heavyweight oil. And the problem with it is for oil to do its job, it's basically 4 things it takes. It takes the right oil, the right place, the right amount, the right time. Like Lake Speed, he used to work with Driven. He's actually with Total Seal now. But anyways, that is what's necessary. The problem with it is on the 6.7s, the oil system is from, it's 2 miles down the road, and then you've got to route it all the way up and across to the oil cooler, to the filter, to the camshaft, to the front, before it starts oiling basically anything. And it takes a long time to get that oil moving. And it starts spinning these bearings. And everybody starts blaming because the Ford, they start saying, well, Ford Motor Company never put tangs on the bearings. It's nothing to do with it. Crush is what keeps the bearing in place. The tang does nothing but actually help the guy, the installer, in placement. But the things that we do to help that on the engines that we build, even if a guy was to send us a brand new Ford short block, we completely disassemble the engine, and then we actually alter the clearances in the crankshaft and the rods so that they're opened up more. You can get away with more clearance anytime, a lot easier than you can too little a clearance. It will always bite you in the end. So we alter the oiling system, and we fix that. the crankshaft, we've seen where the gear is a press-on gear and it has no alignment pin there, spins, and it bends all 32 push rods. We actually TIG weld that to the snout, so that there's absolutely no way that gear can actually spin. There's a lot of things that we do, though, to fix a 6.7. So if you're listening and you have a 6.7 engine, most of the service manuals you'll see are going to tell you to run a 5-weight, maybe a 10-weight oil. Look and find out what temperatures, the parameters that you're supposed to be running in. Run that engine oil, that weight oil that you're supposed to be running, or the climate that you're in. The engineers designed it specifically for a reason. They put that particular specification oil for a reason, and they're not as stupid as what people want to make them out to be. I know the reasons why they did that. A lot of it has to do with fuel consumption, and some of it has to do with emission systems. But at any rate, those are the cards you're dealt. Unless you have an engine from us, run those weight oils. If you're running an engine from us, we have a different specification because we've altered it. So that helps because, like I said, the vast majority of the problems and the failures that we see out of 6.7s are spun bearings.
We'll definitely have to do a 6.7 specific episode when you guys have some of these things you're working on ready to go. One of my favorite things is to follow you guys on social media. I always see teaser pictures that spark a question that I'm going to ask you when we record an episode. But for any new listeners we have out there, where can they find you guys on Facebook and Instagram?
You can check us out at choateengineeringperformance.com for our website. You can check us out at Choate Engineering Performance on Facebook, or Diesel Doctor Tennessee that's more of the repair side, but if you're interested in the engine building side and stuff like that, you can check us out there. And the Instagram, I don't even know what it's hashtag Choate Engineering Performance. So you can follow us along there. I try to post as much as I can. I guess I've been a little bit behind since PRI and stuff, but we hope to get back on that.
Awesome. Well, it was fantastic to learn more about Powerstrokes and some of these fixes that we get tons of questions on, from 6.0s to 6.7s, and there's so much information we gotta kind of take it episode by episode. But it's always great to see what you guys are working on, see the growth that you guys have, and then what you're doing for the Powerstroke community.
Well, I sure appreciate you having us on, and look forward to be able to kind of elaborate some more on some of the 6.7 stuff as we progress.
Don't forget, Diesel fans, if you have any questions about your 7.3, 6-liter, 6.4, 6.7 Powerstroke, whether you need an engine for your work truck or it's a race build that you're planning, give the guys over at Choate Engineering a call. Let them know what you're working on. They're more than happy to help you out. Till next time, keep the shiny side up.